All right, guys, we're back with another podcast. We have a couple things that we already want to touch on. Obviously, you know, this is the lovely, amazing medium Heather, which is a very good friend. Love her so much. Oh,
I'm
that
like,
was so cute, your little crinkle. Yeah, so cute.
you're making me laugh. Stop it. You're making me blush. And as y'all know, this is the lovely moonlight medium, Alyssa. Like she said, we're great friends now. I love her so much. We're so happy to be here to talk to y'all today. We've got a couple things we're going to touch on. And guys, don't forget that we do have our email. If you ever want to give us suggestions, I'm going to hit on this because I don't think we did last time. It is as up here. The number 2, mediums, no filter altogether, no spaces at gmail.com. So don't forget to give us some suggestions of things that you might be struggling with, things that you'd like us to dive into a little bit deeper, because that's exactly what we're here to do, guys. Only here to help everybody else out and answer any questions for you guys. But I know today, a couple things that we wanted to talk about is number 1, manifestation and how that helps and how that works and kind of like what we've done on our spiritual journey to get to where we are. Because I definitely feel like manifestation is a thing, but you do have to put some work into it. You can't just, put it out there and expect for it to happen. We do have to do our own work as well. So I'll let Alyssa start with that, and we will start with manifestation first. And then we've got a list of things to talk about today. So excited to be here, guys. So excited that y'all are here. So let's go.
Alrighty. Well, for manifestation for me, I have done some manifestation, especially like they say, the full moon, like with your full moon water, you
Definitely.
know, write down. And the thing is, too, is you have to speak from my experience like you already have it.
Exactly.
So it's like I am grateful for, this house that I bought, like as an example, like certain things like that. And you can't speak negatively. You can't be like, oh, I wish I had more money in a bank account because the universe reflects that back onto you. So
Exactly right.
you have to be very grateful, very appreciative, in a positive mindset. Again, with that full moon water, which is how I love to manifest, is with the moon water. And I think it is a really, really great tool. And it's kind of all about, again, everything's about intention. It's about putting your full force, all of yourself into the intention, changing your mindset into feel like you already have it. And music is also
Exactly.
a huge thing too with that. You know, um, Energy by, I forgot what her name is, starts with a T. I'm sure you know what song it is. It's called Energy, or like I think it's called Seven Rings by Ariana Grande.
Uh-huh.
Music like
Yep.
that, like they're very positive. It's like I want it, I have it, like everything that I want in this
Yes.
world is already mine. And it's all about switching that mindset, because music can also affect that. If you're listening to negative music when you're trying to manifest,
Yes.
that will manifest too. You can manifest negative and positive on yourself.
Yes. That's so true. And that's really, really big. And that goes along with just staying positive as well, just like a positive mindset, because I know that, there's a lot of people that who want several things, but they talk negatively about everything else. And so you have to remember
Mhm.
that the universe is here to provide for us, but you have to align your energy and you have to stay positive with it. And like you said, if you're constantly one of those people who are saying like, fuck my life all the time, like that's one that's really annoying to me when people are like, fuck my life, fuck my life. Um, that's going to bring negative shit into your life. So you have to remember, guys, to always focus on the positives. And like Alyssa said, if you're talking about, well, I really wish that I had, more money in my account, you are saying that you'd like more money, but you're not saying it the right way.
Mhm.
It's not about wishing, it's about talking about I'm going to have or I already have. It's about it's almost like affirmations and staying positive whenever you're talking about, stuff like that. But it's just so important to make sure that it's positive, because if you can continuously talk about I never feel good, I never feel good, I'm always this, I'm always that, but it's negative, then you aren't going to feel better. You've got to talk that, it needs to be positive. I'm so, thankful for how healthy I am. And I'm so glad that I woke up today with what I have, and I appreciate that. It's about that gratefulness, that gratitude. But also, like you said, actually doing things to manifest, like whether it be writing things down. For me,
Mhm.
when I initially started, I would write things down 10 times every single day.
Mhm.
This is what, I have. This is what, and even though it isn't something you have now, this is what you want to have. And that's how you manifest that. And you actually, see it in your mind, see yourself, like for me, it was seeing myself doing mediumship full time. That was big for me, and I totally manifested that because forever and ever I had to work a full time job and I had no time for my mediumship. And, unfortunately, I got laid off last year. I say unfortunately, but it was actually fortunate. But at the time, I was like, well, damn, but stuff like that happens for a reason. Like they say, when one door closes, another door opens. And then I was able to actually focus on my mediumship full time. And now here I am, I'm meeting my friends like Alyssa, all the other wonderful mediums that we've met along our journey. And now I get to do that full time. And it's such a blessing. But again, like I've been manifesting this, for the last couple of years. And again, it really just depends on how much you are putting into that, how much energy you're putting out there, how much positivity you're putting out there. And again, I can't even talk. The universe will respond, but you have to align yourself and you have to stay positive about it. You have to see yourself doing these things and avoid all negativity,
Yeah.
all second guessing yourself. It's all about the confidence and knowing that like the universe will provide, and they will. All of our loved ones are there to help us, just like we know every single day. But it's very, very big to make sure that it stays positive and that, and it's whatever you want to do, whether it be just, saying something in the morning, affirmations in the morning, or, some people don't like to jot anything down. I'm not big on writing things down. I don't do that anymore, but I just see myself having this, like putting myself in the future, doing these things that I want to be doing. And it happens, so again, it definitely works, but you do have to have that positive mindset. And if you even remotely think that it's not going to happen, it won't, so you've got to
Yeah.
make sure that you stay positive and you stay with that high vibration, knowing that this is going to be something that I'm going to be doing.
Mhm. Yeah, and
I love that.
that also goes along with you also have to put in the work. Although you're manifesting,
Exactly.
you still have to do your part on your end. You can't say, oh, I want to meet a man at the grocery store or at the mall or something, and then you spend 24/7 in bed.
Right.
It doesn't work
You
like
don't leave
that.
the house and expect for the UPS guy to be your next husband.
Exactly. Like you still got to put in the work behind
Yes.
it, you know what I mean? While continuing to have that positive mindset. I know it
Right.
is very, very difficult because we're human at the end of the day, obviously.
Yes.
We get irritated, frustrated, angry, whatever it may be. We have our daily stresses, but it's okay to have that in the moment, but then
Yes.
switch it. But okay, I acknowledge it. I see it. It no longer serves me. Push it away. How can I
Yep.
switch this to think about it in like a positive way? How can I
Exactly.
reverse that? You know, Same thing with me. I lost my job and then I got into mediumship 2 weeks later. And
Crazy.
in the moment, I was so upset. I was stressed.
Right.
Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I have no idea. And I remember talking to my mom right after it happened, and she was like, you know what, Alyssa? She's like, I think this was for a better
Yes.
outcome for you. She's like, I feel like now you can focus on this that's coming up. And although it seems stressful in the moment, she's like, you're going to be okay. She's like, again,
Right.
one door closes, another one opens. And I wouldn't be here today doing this if that didn't happen. So
Exactly.
I look
Exactly.
back and I'm just like, I am so grateful that, that did happen. Obviously, in the moment, it's very scary, but
Right.
make lemonade out of lemons, right?
Yes.
So
Exactly.
you gotta
Exactly.
remain positive as much as you possibly can. Again, it's super, super hard, but it's gonna benefit you later on. And
Right.
also with getting into mediumship, I feel like for me personally, it's a lot easier to stay positive.
Oh
I
yeah.
look around and I'm like, of course there's drama. Drama, we're human. There's going to be drama at some point with someone
Right.
else, something like that. But the drama's a lot less.
Right.
And also, when you get onto your spiritual journey, you will notice that people start to fall off.
Mm-hmm.
Those
That's
toxic
exactly
people,
right.
those energy vampires, the people that are no longer serving you, they will naturally fall away.
Exactly.
And sometimes you don't have to do anything on your end. Sometimes it just happens naturally. And then you
Mm-hmm.
look back and you're like, thank goodness, because that person was not bringing anything to my life. They were not benefiting me in any kind of way. So that's another thing with spirituality. You do lose people,
Yes.
but it
It's
ends
so
up being
true.
positive later.
Exactly, exactly. And that's so true. And I feel like, since I've gone through my spiritual journey as well, like on that topic, you do lose friends. Thank the Lord I haven't lost any family. My family's been very supportive, but you do lose, friends, or like you're not as close to friends because, like you said, sometimes it just doesn't serve you as much. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It isn't for your highest good. And I can't stand to listen to people be negative 24/7 either. So that's another big thing. Like I won't put time into that anymore. No, it doesn't matter who it is. And so for me, like you said, it's going to take some things away from you, but it's also going to give back, like tenfold. And so as
Mm-hmm.
you lose things in your life, you also get 10 times more, more positive things in your life, whether it be new doors opening up, new opportunities. So I definitely feel like that is a huge thing. Like I said, the universe is always willing to provide. And I've always heard that, and of course back in the day I was like, what the hell does that even mean? Like how do
Mm-hmm.
you, but it's not until you actually really align yourself and really get into that spiritual journey of understanding. You know what I mean? And I used to be one to always be like, oh, well, I've got to have all the really cute fancy clothes and I want cute fancy purses, and like because that's what everybody else was doing.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I could care less. Like I look homeless half the time and that's okay, because you know what? I don't care. I don't really care about, all the what people look like and what people wear and what you drive and all. It's just not important anymore. It's more about like actual people and their energy, and
Mm-hmm.
doing like what we can to help others instead of bring others down, or you know what I mean. And I feel like, as we grow up, that's just kind of, a lot of people have that like mean girl mentality, like when you're
Mm-hmm.
going through high school and stuff. And so we've all been there where we've seen that, and whether you're a part of it or not, you've understood, whether you were on the giving end or the receiving end, and you realize that that's stuff that like you don't want to deal with anymore. Like you said, you don't want to deal with the drama, you don't want to deal with the negative energy, you don't want to deal with any of that. And I just feel like I've changed so much in the last couple of years, because it just, there's so much stuff that used to be like a huge priority for me, and now I'm like, I could care less about stuff like that. And I love
Yeah.
that, because it really aligns you with your highest self and your highest good, and you're not worrying about stuff that just doesn't really matter. And like you said, it's stuff that you don't want to put your energy into anymore, and you don't
Yeah.
need to,
Mm-hmm.
so that's definitely important. And I feel like that kind of segues into our next topic that we wanted to talk about, which is shadow work, and why shadow work is so important. And that was a huge part of my spiritual journey, because I had a lot of stuff like from when I was younger, nothing super traumatic, but just things that I'd never really dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be the fact that like my bio dad was never in my family, never knew him. And it's like, if you've gone through that, then you'll understand. If you haven't, it is going to be a little bit harder to understand. But it's stuff like that that you're like, well, like, why? Was I not
Yeah.
good enough? Did he not, why didn't he want to spend time with me? Why didn't he, and stuff like that, that I held on to, that I didn't need to be holding on to. It had nothing to
Mm-hmm.
do with me. He's just a dumbass. You know what I mean? So, and there you go. Here goes me going back to my old self. But there you go, but that was it. It didn't serve me anymore, and because he is the way he is not a reflection on me, and there's no reason for me to be holding on to that. So I let stuff like that go, that I'd carried for a long time, and I could not stand him. I hated him. And now I'm like, why? It's not doing anything for me. Like there's no place in my heart to have hate for anybody anymore. And so I let that go. Opened up huge doors for me spiritually, emotionally, just letting go of things that happened, throughout my time, stuff that happened in high school, whatever it was. I let that stuff go, and like let myself know that like I either did the best that I could in whatever situation it was, or if it had nothing to do with me, like going back to my bio dad, let it go. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that we hang on to, whether it's traumatic experiences, bad experiences that happen, whether we could control them or not. But at the end of the day, we have to learn to release those things, because they aren't a reflection of us. They don't, all that they do is limit us. And
Mm-hmm.
we can be limitless if we want to be, but we have to make sure that we let go of those things that literally have no control over us. We just in our mind let it control us. So that was a big part of my spiritual development, was just letting go of shit that I couldn't control whenever I was younger, either had nothing to do with me, or I was like, I did my best in this situation, and the outcome was the outcome, and I'm going to let that go, because we do learn from all these experiences. They happen for a reason. And they mold us into the people that we are.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if you don't release certain things like that, it's going to be hard to move on in your spiritual journey, because you are going to block yourself and you're going to hold yourself back, for no reason. But it's very difficult. Shadow work is not easy. I always tell people, like, get ready, because it's going to be a very emotional experience, but it's also a healing experience. So we have to go through that and let go of those things so that we can heal and raise our vibration And of course, the very first time that I really did a huge shadow work session, because I didn't even know what it was, and with my first mentor was like, you need to do some shadow work, you've got some things holding you back. And then it was like so like emotional but also so healing. And that night was the first night that I was able to connect with spirit. Saw my first spirit in my mind's eye, got a couple of things, not much, but of course it was my first mediumship experience, my first try at it. And it blew me away, because I was like, I was just blocking myself with all of these, and it's like, as you cleanse and release all these negative things that you've been holding on to, that half the time you shouldn't even be holding on to anyway, spirit's ready to connect with you and like show you that there's more. So
Mhm.
that's kind of my shadow work experience, and how I went through that. And then I'll let you kind of talk about how that works for you. But I'm huge into shadow work and making sure that you release all those, negative ties, negative experiences.
Yeah. So I've done shadow work before getting into mediumship, and it was super, super triggering. I would write it down, like, you write a question and then you answer
Yes.
it. And then in the moment, as I'm writing, I'm just writing. And I remember looking back and being like, oh my God, I didn't even like understand that that's how I truly felt about this situation.
Right.
And it was like a realization as soon as I wrote it down. I was like, oh, so that's why I do this. It was like subconsciously, I didn't know why. You know what I
Right.
mean? It was all in there until I started writing, and then it clicked for me. So now that I've gone into mediumship, I don't write it down anymore, but I will sit with myself sometimes. And if I get triggered or if something irritates me or anything like that, or, if I'm feeling down about something, I'll sit with myself for a second and I'll evaluate it. About, okay,
Right.
why do I feel this way about this? What's the
Right.
deeper issue? Because for the longest time, I did have the biggest struggle with taking things personally. And I would
Right.
get very defensive and I wouldn't understand. And I would just be in that mode of why? Why would this person say this? Why would this person do this to me? And you know what I mean? And now I'm kind of like, that mindset has switched for me, and it's
Mm-hmm.
very much more, they're acting like this or they're saying that. Why are they doing that though? not
Exactly.
not about me, but what's going on with them that
Yep.
they feel the need to hurt people. And it's because hurt people, and you can see
Exactly.
that when they act or say certain things, and it's kind of like you're not happy with yourself. So again,
Yes.
it goes to self projection.
Yep.
So that helped me switch that mindset from they're doing this to me, what do they have against me, what did I do, to
Right.
are you okay,
Are
like
you okay?
what's going on, like, because I am such a therapist. I am the person that's like, I'm always there for the people I love. Like,
Right.
you need to talk, you need an ear, what do you need, like, you need advice, you want me to just listen, you want to just
Right.
cry, let me know. So I'm very like, now, like,
What's going
you
on?
good,
Yeah.
you good, like, I know this isn't about me, I know this is more about you, so let's talk
Right.
about it. You
Yep.
need a beer, like. So it's really
So
helped me
funny.
switch that mindset to where I don't get triggered like that anymore. I kind
Yes.
of just like, I want to help instead.
Right.
Some people don't want that help though. And that is
Exactly.
completely fine. Like, you can only lead a horse to water. So
Right.
I'll try, but I'm not going to exhaust myself trying to
Yes.
help someone else. It's not my problem. I'm doing it out of the kindness of my heart now that I know really what's going on.
Right.
But at the same time, I can only do so much, and I am my number one priority.
That's exactly
So
right.
I feel like that is huge for people who want to get into spirituality. It's going to take some time to realize this if
Yes.
you're like me. But once you do realize it, it's huge and it is so fulfilling and it is so peaceful. And it, believe it or not, it's actually a lot easier to like cut people off or end
Right.
friendships or anything like that, and relationships, because you are so fulfilled within yourself and you know that it's no longer a you problem. I'm not saying that we don't mess up because we all make mistakes, but it's a lot easier to realize our mistakes at that point also. So I feel like shadow work is huge when you're getting into it and sitting with yourself, even if it's not writing, just sitting with yourself and really evaluating. And it brings you so much growth. And it really tends to take your ego and kind of like put it up under a microscope.
Right.
because the bigger your ego when it comes to mediumship, there's no room for it. You
Yes,
got to let that ego
exactly.
go.
Yes,
So,
you're exactly right. And that's what's crazy about it is like for everybody it's different. You know, some people are going to have a lot of emotional baggage to go through. So I tell people like shadow work is not a one-time thing.
yeah.
I will sit with shadow work usually every 3 to 4 months and do like a really long, good shadow work, you know, for like you said, any triggers that are still bothering you to this day. Because of course we don't do one shadow work and then, oh, we're this perfect person. Now, you know, I can raise my vibration and I'm never going to have a negative thought again. That is not how it works, you know. So you have to be lenient with yourself and understand that it is a process, and that's okay. You know, for every person, it's going to be different because it depends on what, you know, what you've gone through in your life, what happened when you were
Hmm.
younger. Do you have a lot of trauma? If you have a lot of actual trauma, severe trauma, it can take years sometimes to get over that, just like having to go to therapy and things of that nature. But shadow
Hmm.
work's the same thing, except you're working on yourself by yourself. And like you said, really having to sit and navigate that, you know, what is the reasoning behind this? And like you said, but you learn, okay, this is actually
Hmm.
not even me. This is actually somebody else in this scenario, but this one is me. And this is something I need to work on, you know, and it really is very you know, it's a huge part of like each different step of awakening because we all go through different stages of that where we open up more and we open up more and you know we're constantly being given things from spirit and learning new things every single day. But like I said, I feel like shadow work's a big part of like whenever you're first starting your journey to understand like yourself, because that is really the only person that can block you. You know, I'll have
Hmm.
people tell me, oh, you know, I feel blocked or I feel like this, and I always tell people that if you're feeling blocked, it's just you. You know,
Hmm.
nobody else has any um like leeway to make you feel that way. You know what I mean? Like if you're
Hmm.
feeling that way, you've got to focus on yourself and figure out why, you know? And like you
Hmm.
said, it's really not even about anybody else at the end of the day. It's about us and how we are
Hmm.
accepting things and how we're processing things and how we're reacting to things. Reacting is a huge thing. I used to be a huge, huge reactor to stuff.
Hmm.
If you pissed me off, you were going to hear it right then and there. And I was going to be very, very ugly. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
now I realize like, you know, it still happens sometimes. I'm not a saint by any means, you know what I mean? The hood side will still come out every once in a while, but
Yeah.
it takes a lot more to get me to that point. Like now, you know, I used to be scrolling through Facebook or whatever, and I'd see something and be like, what the hell? And it would immediately piss me off. And I was
Oh
like,
yeah. Hmm.
why? Why am I
Hmm.
letting something on Facebook piss me off? You know what I mean? And now, like, if I see something stupid that just annoys me, just keep scrolling. Just keep scrolling. There's
Yeah.
no need to
Yeah.
make a post. There's no need to make a comment. I'm not one to ever air my laundry out on there because I feel like, you know, it does need, there needs to be more privacy these days. People
Hmm.
tend to like use social media to air all their dirty laundry out or somebody else's, and I'm like, that's something else I've learned. Like there's no reason for any of that.
Yeah.
Keep your shit private. There's no reason for that. But also, like I said, you also have to learn how to not be so reactive. And I have learned, like, I have grown so much with that because I used to be super reactive to any and every single thing all day long. And I wondered
Hmm.
why I was always pissed off and in a bad mood and saying all the negative stuff too. But it is like you have to learn how to not be so reactive to stuff, especially if you can't control it. Like, what's the point of getting so upset over something that you
Yeah.
have no control over? So now I'm just like, you know what? I just keep on scrolling, you know, and bring the stuff that, you know, on your pages like we do with TikTok that makes you laugh, you know, dog
Hmm.
stuff, funny stuff. Like it's all about the stuff that makes you laugh and makes you happy, not the stuff that brings you down. And don't, you know, watch the news or don't go watch this if it's going to put you in a bad mood or put you in a bad headspace. Don't do that to yourself. You know, it's all about
Hmm.
making sure that like you put yourself where you need to be for the mindset that you want. If you want to have a bad day and you want to be negative all day long, then fine, do the stuff that triggers you. You know what I mean? But again,
Yeah.
it's all about the way that you react to it and learning how to not be so reactive. And that is just a huge, it's just something that you kind of have to work on. And it is a process, but you can get to a point where you are totally different with that. Cause I know I am now, you know, like stuff
Hmm.
still triggers me here and there, but it's not like it used to be where every single thing pissed me off. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah.
So that's
No,
big.
I'm 100% the same way. I used to be very reactive. Oh man, especially like in my early 20s. Oh, it was so bad. And now everyone tells me, "Oh, you're so calm. You're so like serene." And I tell my mom and she just starts busting up laughing. She's like, "Are you serious?" And I was like, "Yeah, everyone tells me I'm so calm and I'm not reactive and I'm just so this." And she's like, "They don't know you."
I don't know you. You're like, they just know the
Absolutely.
new me, mom. This is the new
Yeah,
me, you know?
but
And
she'll
I feel
tell
like,
me.
yeah, we've
She'll
embraced
tell
it
me.
though, you know?
Hmm.
And you have to.
Yeah, she's definitely told me too. She's like, you've matured so much in so little time. And the way that I would react, I don't react now.
Right.
It takes me a lot. It takes
Yes.
me a lot to really react. And my fiance will see it. Like it's like climbing a ladder. It's like, okay, there's one step, there's two steps,
Yep.
and there's like, well, then once you get right here, he's like, I already know, just leave you, just give you food and leave you alone.
That's so funny. And it
Yeah.
is true. You know, and we're still going to have our days. Like I said, we're not perfect. I know I still have my days where I can tell like I'm being a negative Nancy and I'm like, you know, I need to stop. You know what I mean? But, you
Hmm.
know, we're still going to have those days. But I also know I can realize it now. And it's not my personality anymore. That's not like what I base my days off anymore. Like I feel like
Hmm.
it's changed a lot. And you can change your perspective, but it does take time. It's not a quick process. You know, I've been doing this for 5 years now, and it took me years to get to the point where it like every single thing wasn't getting on my nerves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I definitely feel better though, and I feel like you do get in a better headspace. You just feel better mentally whenever you're
Hmm.
not being triggered by stupid stuff all the time, or you know stuff that just doesn't even matter. You know,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
I feel like that can kind of take us to our next topic, which is oh, did you want to talk about meditations today, real quick?
Yeah, we could talk about meditation.
Just really quick,
Sure.
guys. I know we've kind of hit on this before, but I know a lot of people have been asking us like how do we do it, how do you start mediumship? And I've always told people that the best tool if you're looking to do mediumship and really any spiritual work, because this is the best way to like calm the mind, is to do meditations. But what we really wanted to hit on is that like all meditations are different for people. Like for me, I only like guided meditations. I like somebody guiding me through it. I want to listen to it and relax and feel like I'm being you know led by the hand, if that makes sense. If I listen to just straight meditation music, I'm probably going to fall asleep. But I love a guided meditation because I know that I'm supposed to be thinking about exactly what they're telling me. Like, what am I supposed to be looking at? What, you know, and it depends on what type of meditation you're doing. Are you looking to, you know, broaden your clairaudience, your clairvoyance, your clairsentience, you know, and there's so many different great meditations that you can use. I always just use YouTube and, you can literally type in meditation for psychic abilities, meditation for, you know, mediumship, meditation for clairvoyance, whatever it is that you want to focus on that day. But I always tell people to start out slow. Don't expect to get into a meditation and sit there for 30 minutes because number one, you've got to learn how to just meditate by itself first. And that's huge, is making sure that you just learn how to quiet the mind, because that is super hard for most people. And most people will give up before they've even had a chance to really get into it. It takes, I did meditation every day, twice a day for a whole year when I first started doing my spiritual journey, because I had to learn how to quiet my mind. And my mind races 24/7. So that was
Hmm.
really, really difficult for me. So I would start out with only like a 5 or 10 minute meditation, but I would do it twice a day just to learn. And I learned that like through breath work and just like calming, like I could feel my whole body relaxing when I would do a meditation. So not only was it good mentally, like stimulating for learning, but also just like for the entire body. Like it really calms the body, especially for somebody who stays stressed or you're anxious all the time. I tend to recommend meditation for those people as well. But I don't think a lot of people understand how beneficial meditation is, not just like physically and mentally, but also spiritually. If you're trying to open up and learn how to like really harness your different gifts, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I absolutely do love a good meditation. I had been doing it for years, actually. Again, this was when I was very reactive, and I would do meditation, and that actually did help me a lot with that. Again, I would do it just like you,
Uh
morning
huh.
and night, and
Uh huh.
like twice a day, 5, 10 minutes. And I was one of those people where it's very hard for me to focus and, like you said, quiet the mind.
Right.
Very hard. So it took some time, and I stayed consistent with it. And the more I was consistent with it, the easier it got. As soon as,
Yep.
like, a thought about life, oh, I forgot to do this, I need to do that. As soon as okay, I acknowledge it, doesn't serve me in this moment, let me push it away.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
then immediately I would go back to focusing on my breathing.
Yep.
And I'm the same way too. I love a good guided meditation. One of the meditations that has helped me a lot with mediumship is the sitting in the power. I
Yes.
think his name is Tony. who does it. It's on YouTube, but I also
Okay.
use Insight Timer app. And it's
Yes.
really good. It has so many different guided meditations. It has courses in there that you can do. I love it so much. And I'll just go in there and I'll just favorite the ones that I like the most. They have one for anxiety, they have one for depression, they have one if you're having trouble sleeping, they have like positive affirmations. Of course, they have the sitting in the power. They have like one to have a good day, like different things on that app. So that's why I love that app so much. I haven't meditated in a while. I need to do it. But sitting in the power was
Same.
huge for me. Yeah,
Yes.
it's been a minute. I need to do it.
It's it's very, and I feel like back in the day, I actually want to touch on this as well. And I don't know if you felt this way, but back in the day, I felt like if I didn't get my daily meditation in, I wasn't going to be able to do my mediumship. So I
Mm,
don't know if you felt like that, but there for a while, I was like, if I don't get like my at least, 3 or 4 meditations in the week, I'm going to lose it. Like I'm not going to be able to do it. And there again goes the negative mindset of just feeling like and making up excuses if I wasn't getting stuff. And now it's like I don't meditate nearly as often as I used to. I need to make more time for it because it really does help. But if I have had like a stressful day and I just feel like, man, I need to just calm down and chill out, I am going to like always go to a meditation, and I like to meditate in the bath. That's like my favorite spot. I feel like it like puts me
I
in a
was about to
whole,
say that.
yes, literally puts me in a whole different like place, like a whole nother dimension. And they say that water is a very good, conduit. So it definitely
Mhm,
helps you, like that's where I was doing my channeling the other night when I was channeling somebody's lost cat. And
mhm,
that was wild. But I feel like when I need to really like focus and channel something that's going to be a little bit more difficult, I'm going to do it in the bathtub.
yeah.
So I love that. Yeah, good meditation is, I feel like it's great for the mind, the soul, the body, like overall, even if you're not trying to do mediumship or anything spiritual, it's just a great tool. Um, anyway, regardless of
Yeah.
what's going on. But I love meditation. So I wanted to make sure that we touched on that. But I do know, like, once you harness your mediumship abilities, and we've talked about this before as well, it's never going anywhere. Like, you've got it. You just have to fine
Mhm,
tune it. And it's like working out, where if you're not working that muscle every single day, it may just not be as strong, but it's still going to be there. Like you said, you're the one who said it's like riding a bike. And that's exactly right. It's never, we're
mhm,
always going to know how to ride a bike. You may just
mhm,
be a little bit shaky whenever you get back on after 30 years or something, you know what I mean? But
mhm,
you still know how to do it. That the mind has that muscle memory. It's just like what us, if we're doing mediumship daily, it just gets stronger, stronger, and stronger. We tend to have a quicker connection. We tend to get stuff quicker, but it is about keeping that muscle working. You know what I mean?
yeah. Mhm, 100%. Again, love some good meditation. It really, really does help. For me, in the beginning, I didn't feel like I needed to do meditation. I felt like it was a really, really helpful tool to
Yes.
make it easier and quicker to connect, to make the communication clearer. Now I'll do it if I'm feeling like, okay, my connection hasn't been as strong lately. Let me do a quick meditation. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
always invite my guides in. Hey, if you guys want to come assist me with these readings I'm about to do, please,
For sure.
feel free to come help me. Uh,
Feel free. If you're not busy today, I could use
yeah.
some help.
Oh, they're with me and stuff that I go through. They're busy all the time. Just kidding.
That's so funny. But it's true, guys. We do always, before any not meditation, before any mediumship, I do always call on my guides. A lot of people know Bob, who is my grandpa, who is also, I definitely think he's one of my guides, but he helps me to bring people in when I tend to struggle with a spirit that's not really very talkative. So we definitely, rely on not just the universe itself, but past loved ones, our guides, to come in and help us with our readings and keep us protected, and make sure that we are getting, um, the best things and the best needed information for this person for the healing that they're needing.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Next, we wanted to touch a little bit on some haunted stories because it is October. We love our spooky season. We're a
spooky
couple of spooky
season.
girls. So we just wanted to touch on a little bit of our haunted stories. We're gonna have some more to come this month, but just a little quick touch in our experiences with haunted stories. Do you want to go first, Heather?
Yeah, so I know I've talked about the haunted house that I grew up in, and like I said, we had so many different things that happened there. But one of the things I wanted to talk about, which is really funny, was when I had first actually started talking to my husband, and I'm going to talk about some of the guys in the house because, like I said, I always heard stuff, stuff going up and down the hallway. There's always movement in my room, my bed shaking, all the weird, shit that was constantly happening. But it was funny because I know that I told Alyssa this story, and she was like, "You haven't mentioned this yet." So this was something that actually happened to my husband whenever he came over. The very first time we had just started talking, and to keep this short and sweet, he was at the house. I was only like 15 or so. And so my mom was like, you can come, but like, leave the door cracked, how it is back in the day. And so we were watching a movie, but another person had come by and she was like, Heather, you have a visitor or whatever. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I go out there to go talk to this friend of mine and tell him like, I've got company over, like I'll have to talk to you later, whatever. And while this was happening, of course, my husband was like, what the hell? Like, who's here? Like, what's going on? So, of course, he was fixing to leave because he got irritated. So he gets to the door and he goes to open the door to leave. And when he went to open the door, this lady wearing a white dress like walked past really fast and walked into my mom's room, which was like catty corner. And so when this happened, of course, he immediately like closed the door back because he didn't want, my mom to see him, but it obviously was not my mom. And so it was funny because he didn't tell me this that day. But when I came back into the room, I could tell he was acting really weird, but I thought he was just irritated because I had somebody else show up while he was there. You know what I mean? And but he was fine. And like it kind of the night finished, whatever, he goes home. And the next day, I could tell he was still acting kind of weird. And I was like, what is going on? Like, what's wrong with you? And he was like, I don't know. He was like, I saw something at your house yesterday when I was there. And I was like, okay, I'm like, what happened? And he
Mm-hmm.
was like, well, like whenever you had, so and so show up, he was like, I was just gonna leave because I didn't want to like be at like he didn't want to intrude or whatever. So he was like, when I went to leave, he tells me what happened, and I'm like, that's weird because at this point in time, my brother had been seeing the same lady, but he had not mentioned it. A lot of us weren't saying the shit that we were seeing because we thought we were crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he tells me about this lady, I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, well, I thought it was your mom. But when I left that night, I noticed that she was wearing like jeans and a brown shirt or whatever she was wearing that night, but obviously not a really old timey looking white dress. And he was like, and I don't even know why, I thought that was her, but I just saw a woman. So I just closed the door. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, that's really, really weird. And it's so weird because even the entire time that I was there, I never saw this lady.
Mm-hmm.
I always saw this old man wearing the boxers and the wife beater. That's the only thing that I ever physically saw. But my brother, I don't know about my dad. I've got to ask my stepdad. But my brother always saw the lady in white, and Victor saw the lady in white. So, like I said, it was really weird that she would only show herself to the males, in the household. But so that was a funny story because, like, literally the very first time he was there, here goes spirit showing themselves to him, and I'm sure he
Mm-hmm.
was like, I don't ever want to go to this house again. You know what I mean? And so he didn't. He never really came over very often after that. But it was just funny because it was always if somebody was there. I told y'all the story last time about my friend being there when I had that migraine, and somebody opened the door and my cat was like hissing at it and growling and everything. So for whatever reason, spirit was definitely not scared to show itself there and like project whenever people were there. But I had just gotten so used to it because there was always stuff happening. Like I said, I was terrified of that house whenever I was little. And I think that is why I shut down a lot of my abilities for a long time because I did get scared. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know why it was, acting out, what the deal was. But that was a story that I definitely wanted to bring up because it's just really wild that it would only show itself to the men. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just really weird how spirit works and like why things happen the way they do. And there's still a lot of questions, you know what I mean? Like with paranormal activity and why, only certain spirits want to talk to certain people or show themselves to certain people. So it's just wild.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the other stories I wanted to mention. I'll let you go into some of yours.
Yeah, so I have so many, so many, but I think that the one that I want to tell you guys, I was 18 at the time, and my best friend was over. Her name is Jasmine. We were in my room and we were getting ready. It was the middle of the day. No one was home. It
Mm-hmm.
was summer. We're just hanging out. I think we're getting ready to go somewhere, do something. And we hear something falling in the bathroom that's right next to, my bedroom. And so we go in there and there's like the shampoo bottles on in the bathtub and we're kind of like, okay, walk back to the bathroom. Like, that was weird. No one's home.
Right.
So it happens again. And we're just like, what the heck? Did I not put it back right? Like, what? And it keeps happening. And we're just kind of like, okay, like, if we hear it again, we're just going to leave it alone. So we close the
Right.
door. And right around the corner is this hallway. And there's a hallway closet. And we're walking back to the room. And on the top, we have like these huge, like, organizers full of like shampoo, conditioners, soaps, like extra stuff like that for the bathroom. It's all the way on the top shelf. It comes all the way down, hits the ground, ends up all over the hallway. And we're just kind of like, what the
What's
heck? Like, this is
happening?
super heavy because obviously it's like
Yeah.
full conditioner, shampoos, like everything like that. And there's no way that it would come down unless someone pulled it down.
Right.
So we were just like, okay. And then I was like, I'm just leaving it. I'm not even going to
Yeah.
touch it. Let's just go back to the room. So, and then we started hearing footsteps.
Uh-huh.
I was like, let's just go to the room. So I went to the room and I'm about to close the door again. And directly opposite of my bedroom door is my mom's bedroom door, and hers was
Uh-huh.
wide open. And you could see to the her back sliding door and the blinds. The blinds start going crazy.
Oh my God.
And we're just like,
What's
what the
happening?
heck? The AC was not on. There was no windows open. No one was home. Like, it was crazy. And it was just going crazy. And then it would stop for maybe like a couple minutes and then it'd start again. And then it'd
What
start
the
again.
hell?
And then it'd start again. And we're just kind of like, I called my mom and I told her, because I didn't have my license at the time, but
Uh-huh.
I had a car. And my best friend had her license though. So I was like, Mom, we're freaking out. We're leaving the house. She's like, how are you gonna leave the house? I was like, Jasmine's gonna drive my car. We're gonna go. And she was just like, okay, like, if you want to leave, just go to McDonald's or something. Like, go to the mall. It's right down the road. I don't know. She's like, yeah, just leave, just lock the house and go.
Yeah.
And we to this day will still talk about it and just be like, can you believe that? Like, our minds are like, there's
So
no
crazy.
possible way that all of that could
Yeah.
happen. It was
It's
so weird.
crazy. And I told you the same thing that this whatever it was that was at our house did the same thing in the bathroom in my mom and dad's bathroom. But it was
Mm-hmm.
only if I was by myself. It would never happen when everybody was there. But if I was by myself, like out in the living room trying to do homework or just waiting for my mom to get home, I would hear shampoo bottles dropping into their
Mm-hmm.
bathroom, and I'd be like, "What the hell?" Because it was so loud, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd go back there, they hadn't even moved. That was the weird thing. Like they weren't in the bathtub, but
Mm-hmm.
I heard them. I know what that sound sounds like, you know. And the
Mm-hmm.
minute that I would leave the room, it would sound like something dropped again, and I'd go back in there, nothing. And like you said, after like the third or fourth time of going in there, I would start getting so freaked out that I was like, forget it. Like, and it would
Mm-hmm.
keep happening, and then as soon as I would just ignore it, it would stop. And that's how everything
Mm-hmm.
was there. If I just ignored it, it would go away. But
Mm-hmm.
I always wondered because I know that you talked about this too, um, with somebody having that weird doll that you felt like something was
Mm-hmm.
attached to. And we always had these old antique porcelain dolls. And they were actually at on a table that sat at the end of that hallway where I always felt something. Like I said, I never walked down that hallway. I always ran. I hated that
Mm-hmm.
hallway. Like you literally felt like somebody was like standing right behind you or like breathing down your neck, you know? And so it was really weird because we had some very weird looking porcelain dolls that were at the end of that hallway that I always thought like something was wrong with these dolls. I don't even remember where they came from, but
Mm-hmm.
I knew we had them from like the time we moved into that house. And I don't even know what happened to them, to be honest, but they always gave me like the weirdest vibes and like so creepy. But same thing. It's just funny about the whole shampoo dropping in the bathtub because that was the same thing. Like, what is it, spirit, that y'all are like to mess
Yeah.
with the shampoo in the bath?
What's the
That's so
obsession?
funny.
I don't get it, but yeah, that's one of my stories again. I have
Yes,
so
yes,
many stories, and it's absolutely insane the stuff that we have been through. I completely
literally.
understand why you shut down,
Oh yeah,
everything. I
yeah,
completely get it. But my mom was very encouraging. So she was like,
yeah,
she loves this stuff, but she's very like, for you. I love it for you,
yes,
not for me,
yes.
but for you. So
Totally get that. Totally
I
get
got
that.
so used to activity, like so much. And my fiance even sees things all the time. I would say
Right.
he even sees things more than I do.
That's
And
crazy.
I remember this one time we were at my mom's and it was the middle of the night. He always gets up in the middle of the night when I'm sleeping to get something to eat. That's just what he does. So I was sleeping and he kind of wakes me up. He's like, babe, I'm gonna go get something to eat downstairs. And I was like, okay. And I, rolled over and went back to sleep.
Uh-huh.
He goes downstairs. He comes running back upstairs. He's like, babe, babe. And I was like, what? What? And he's like, I saw the little boy. I saw the little boy. Because I've had this little boy that has been around me for years. And I
Uh-huh.
just kind of like, he's like an annoying little brother or something. So I just kind of ignore him. And I was like, oh, yeah. And he was like, yeah. He's like, I was in there. I was looking in the fridge. He's like, and I saw him just staring at me. He's like, so he starts, talking shit to him. And I'm like, I told you not to do that. Just leave the little boy alone. Like, he's not hurting you. He's
Uh-huh.
fine. You just ignore him. So I started talking shit to him. And then he started running at me on all fours. He's like, I booked
Oh my
it.
God.
So he ran upstairs. And I'm like, I told you, just ignore him. He's harmless. Just leave him alone. He's like,
That's
I'm not
so
going
funny.
downstairs at night anymore. I'm done.
He
Okay,
all
good.
wakes you up. Can you come with me downstairs?
Yeah, literally. I'm
That's
just
so
like,
funny.
it was
I'm telling
hilarious.
you. Yeah, I am telling you. I mean, it was always something over there. Like I said, I don't ever remember having any other activity anywhere else. And that's like the weirdest thing because, like, you said like it followed you wherever you
Mm-hmm.
went. And I
Yeah.
kind of had a feeling that was going to happen, to be honest. And like when we moved over to the house that we moved into after we lived in that house, it was even older. It was built like in 1920. So this house was old. And I was like, here we go. Now it's going to be even worse. And nothing. You know what I mean? Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
it was so weird because I'd wake up, and my bed wouldn't be shaking like it did. Like I would just wake up for whatever reason of the night, but I would be prepared for like having the weird stuff happen that had happened at the other house. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
At the other house, in the middle of the night, there would be scratching like on the inside of my closet all
Mm-hmm.
night long. So of course I always kept telling my mom, like, I think there's like a rat or something in there, or like a raccoon. You know what I mean? But it would stop and then like you wouldn't hear it for a while and then it would start again and it would go all night long, but it was only in that one closet. But it sounded like it was on the inside of the door, not like up inside like the actual attic. Like it sounded like it was right on side, like inside of the closet door. So it was really really weird. And I told you about the very back room of the house being like anywhere from like 10 to 15 degrees colder all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like that's where everything started. But like I said, we never could figure out what happened in that house. But that room was just like it was just off. Like if you walked in there, you just felt like there was like you weren't alone.
Yeah.
And whenever my brother stayed there, whenever my sister stayed there with us for a short time, neither one of them liked being in there by themselves. You know what I mean? Like they would always leave the door
Yeah.
open or didn't want to sleep in there. And it was just constant, just weird energy in there. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
we never could figure out what happened in that house. But it was always, I mean, just constant activity. Like we got so used to it that it didn't even really bother me as much. But honestly, like when I think back, I'm like, I don't know how I ever slept in that house, to be honest. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because it was so active all the time. So it's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. It's some of the things that have happened to us. Like I said, I'm not surprised that, you shut it down because honestly, I
Yes.
probably would have too. That sounds like a lot
Yes.
of activity, like constantly.
Constant activity. Like it didn't go very long without something happening. And um I was trying to think of like I think I know I've already touched on most of it, but it was mainly that hallway. Like I always felt like that hallway in that room had something, but like I said, we never could. Like we tried to research to see if anybody had ever passed there, if there was something traumatic that had happened there, but we never could figure out anything with that house. And I still wonder to this day, like I drive by there sometimes just to go look at it, and I want to go like ask the people that live there, like, hey, is this house weird? Like, do y'all ever have any weird activity? You know what I mean? But that would be so weird. But it's like you always want to know kind of like, you know what I mean? And why? Like, why is this activity still here? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's just very interesting for
I
sure.
picked up on something real quick, but I'm gonna text you about it. I'm not gonna say it on here.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I picked up on something and it was super, super quick, and I'm just like, oh, okay.
I can't wait to hear about it. I
Ugh.
can't wait to hear. I've never tried to like try to pick up on anything because I'm like, it makes me nervous still. To this day, it makes me nervous.
Yeah,
I don't even want any of that energy. So I don't know what it is, what was happening there,
yeah.
but definitely a lady in white, and then the old man with his boxers and his wife beater that would walk
Yeah.
back and forth from my room to my mom's room all the time. And I would only see him because this was back in the day of like the landline telephones, you know, and it was
Mhm.
at in the living room, where the living room and the kitchen was, the phone was right here on this wall. And so when you'd
Mhm.
be on the phone, you could see the living room, or sorry, you could see the kitchen, you could see the living room, and then down that hall. And so I'd usually just stand right there and I'd be looking down the hall, like while I'd be on the phone, and that would be the only time I'd ever see him. If I was on the phone and not really paying attention, and I would just see him walk by. And he was just very like, um see-through ish, you know what I mean? Because like I haven't ever seen, the way we channel and the way we do mediumship, we don't see people in front of us. That's just not how it works. But that's
Yeah.
the only like physical person that I've seen. I have also seen my husband's grandmother one time, but when she showed up, it was literally like she was in the room. She was walking behind his mom, which would be her daughter. I just happened to like I heard somebody like walking, like, and she would kind of like shuffle her feet.
Mhm.
And I just looked and I saw, and she always had her hair like in a bun, and she was wearing like kind of like a moo looking dress, but all I saw was her back and her like walking in the kitchen. And it was just really funny because I looked over and I was like, you know, and my son was sitting next to me and he was like, "Are you doing your weird shit again?" And I was laughing so hard. I was like, "No." And he was like, but he knew, like, just because of the face that I made, he knew that something
Yeah.
happened. But I didn't want to say anything in front of them because I didn't want to scare them, which I mean, his mom's very, very open as well. And she loves all this stuff as well. But I was just like, it was so random for that to happen. Cause like I said, most of the time we don't see stuff like physically, like like your
Mhm.
husband. Ooh, girl, what was that? Let me know what happens later today. No, I'm just kidding. Um, Yeah, that was so funny. Like he does though, because I feel like he sees stuff like physically all the time. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I don't. I don't. It's really, really weird. And I wish I did, but then I also am like, would it scare me still? You know what I mean? Because we're just not
Mhm.
used to that, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
But it was just really, really weird because that's the only two times that I've ever seen anything physically. I don't ever see shadow people. I don't ever see a lot of the stuff that people, see, but I feel like it just depends on the person. We all have different ways of viewing, the
Yeah.
other side. But I mean, I would say probably 95% of all mediums don't see stuff visually, like physically. I mean, it's more
Yeah.
in our mind's eye.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, for sure. When I would see things too, like I do the same thing. I get a face and I'll
uh-huh.
just be like, and then whoever knows me and knows that I see things, they'll
Yes.
immediately be like, "What'd you see? What'd you
Yeah.
see? What'd you see?" And I'm just like, "Calm down.
You're
Can I
like,
see if
I
there's
don't
something?"
know.
They immediately know.
Right.
Immediately, they're like, "Who is it? What they say? What do they want?" I'm just
What do they want?
like,
That's so funny. It really is, but it's like people do realize, like I mean, I think both of us are very like you're gonna see on our faces like what we're feeling and
"Oh yeah,
but like I said, it was so funny because my son was like, "Are you doing that weird shit again?" And I'm like, "Bro, be quiet. Like you don't even know what's happening right now." But I was like, "No." And he was like, "Yes, you are." And then he was like making it a whole thing. And I'm like, "Be quiet, dude. Just be quiet. And he was like, you could tell he was just kind of like, whatever, you know what I mean? But I was like, I don't want to talk
mhm,
about it right now. So I ended up telling my husband later about it. And then, of course, we told his mom, I think, like the next time we went over there. But it makes sense, that she would be there. But I was just like, it was just funny because, like I said, I don't see stuff like that all the time. And I think people think that mediums literally physically see. And I even have people in readings, they're like, well, can you see them? And I'm like, no. Sometimes I won't
no,
see anybody, like I'll get their
no,
personality, I'll get how they act, I might get just a smile from them. I don't ever see eyes for whatever reason. I might see like their stature and how they stood and how tall they were, but not like actual physical characteristics 9 times out of 10. But
yeah,
I think
yeah,
we're all different. Some people
yeah,
do get more physical stuff, but I just don't normally. Not as much as I
yeah,
used to when I first started. And I think it's because when I first started, it was nothing but clairvoyance. That's all
mhm,
I had to rely on. So they would show themselves more physically because I wasn't getting anything else. I wasn't getting the
yeah,
personality. I wasn't getting any of the way that they acted. So now it's changed. And again, I told you like my clairsentience has really kicked in full gear, and so I feel like my clairvoyance has gone away a little bit right now. which I don't like. I want it back. But I understand I've got to get really good with the clairsentient stuff first. And then, spirit will give me my clairvoyance back at some point, hopefully. Still there a little bit.
No, yeah. When I'm doing mediumship, I don't physically see them either.
Right.
I know where they are in the room because I could
Right.
feel their energy with
Yeah.
me. And I
Yep.
know exactly if they're standing to my right, standing to my left, where they are. But as far as physically seeing, that's just like usually for me now, it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
And for me, when I see spirits, like when I'm not doing mediumship, it's like that clear knowing mixed with physically seeing like their shadow or like their outline very quickly, and I immediately know male or female, this is
Right.
they're wearing, and like things like it's very quick with that. It's just like I know, like I know
Right.
this is what it
Right.
is, even though I saw them real quick, and it's like a real quick connection in a way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's funny that you say that because I don't, it's really weird. I mean, of course, I'm still learning every single day, and I obviously know if I'm getting a male or a female energy, but I don't see it. So
Yeah.
it's literally the clear knowing of just knowing this is a female or this is a male
Yeah.
energy. You can definitely tell the difference between those
Hmm.
energies, which, I only recently started doing the spirit led readings, 2 months ago. So before I've always gone direct. So I knew if I was getting a male or female because you told me who we were
Yeah.
going to be reading. But
Hmm.
during spirit led, I feel like has really helped to like harness that part of it because I've got to figure out, is this a male?
Hmm.
Is this a female? And then focus on the items that they're giving me for validations. But before
Yeah.
I'd be like, I would only know because I was going direct always. I've only ever known how to go direct. And so of course now with spirit led, I love that because it's a completely different method of channeling and getting information and knowing, okay, this is either a female or a male, or I feel like this is a mom energy, whether
Hmm.
it be a grandma energy, and I don't know. Again, I'm still trying to figure out how I know the age.
Hmm.
They don't, sometimes they'll give me a number. Lately, they've been doing really good with giving me numbers that are right on for when they passed. But otherwise, I would just know that they were like older than 80 or would have been in their
Hmm.
50s to 60s. But how? I don't know. It's a clear
Yeah.
knowing. It's just what spirit gives us and just lets us, go with the flow part of it. But it
Hmm.
really is weird how like mediumship works and how we work, in tandem with them. But it's almost like they work through us, and
Yeah.
show us these different things, but not physically. So that's crazy because if we could see them physically, it would make even more sense. I know that some
Oh
mediums are
yeah.
very good with the physical attributes, but I'm not. It's just not been big for me since I first started, and that's okay because I feel like I still get plenty of information. It just isn't all
Hmm.
about because I think spirit doesn't. They don't care what they look
Hmm.
like. You know what I mean? Like that's not a
Yeah.
big part. It's not how they raised this person or what they did with this person and all the core memories because those are the main things that they bring up because those do mean more to the
Hmm.
sitter. So it's just interesting.
Yeah, that's why I don't go by physical when they
Right.
do show themselves to me. I don't go by any physical because I have had spirits show me themselves so many different ages. Like they'll show me
Yes.
when they're younger, even though they were like 25 when they passed, they'll show me as they were like 50. And I'm like, okay, so I just
Yes.
don't go by anything
Yep.
really physical other than like maybe height or
Right.
like maybe if they wore glasses.
Yeah. Because they'll
Hmm.
bring that up and it's for a
Yeah.
reason. Like somebody has their glasses or they were having a really hard time seeing at the end. So
Hmm.
sometimes, yeah, I'll definitely bring that up as well. It's crazy how they show us the things that like is going to make sense for their sitter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And really validate if that makes sense. So
Hmm.
super interesting. Super interesting.
Yeah, that's why I absolutely love mediumship. It's so different
Same.
every single day, and every reading is different, and that's why I love
Yes.
it so much.
We never know. And that's why we always try to preface, set aside all expectations, keep an open mind, because we never know what the hell, spirit's going to bring in. Sometimes it's going to be nothing but images. Sometimes it's going to be more of the personality. Sometimes it's just straight messages. You know what I mean? It's just
Hmm.
really catered to what that person needs to hear. And that's something that's big. And something else that I've noticed is a lot of people are asking, like I've seen this in mediums rooms this past week where somebody's like, well, can you tell me like what jewelry item I have of theirs? Or can you tell me like a specific clothing item that I have? And people need to understand that that gets us like out of our mediumship brain and into that
Hmm.
analytical side, and that's just not how it works. They're going to give us
Yeah.
what they want you to know and hear, um when we start getting questions like that, like I don't mind if you want to ask a question about, you know, how they feel about a certain situation. That's a little bit easier to fill into for me. But like when you start trying to test us with, well,
Yeah.
what was their favorite color? What was their favorite food? Things like that. Don't test your mediums, guys. That's not what we're
Yeah.
here to do. We're going to give you information, and I understand, but that's why we tell you to set aside all expectations and keep an open mind, because we're going to give you exactly what we get. We don't gatekeep anything. I'm going to tell you the most random stuff, whether it makes sense or not. But just know that like stuff like that gets us out of our mediumship brain and into our analytical brain, and half the time at that point spirit starts shutting down, I start shutting down, and all it does is like cause issues in the reading. So that's just something I wanted to bring up, that like I've noticed that they did that to Brooke this week. They did that to
Yeah.
Ashley a minute ago, and I was like, I cannot stand when people do that. And I understand that it's something specific that they want to know, and I get that. But it really, all it does, guys, is get us out of our mediumship brain and into the analytical, and it doesn't work like that. As soon as we do that,
Yeah.
we lose connection, and
Yeah.
things just immediately start going downhill. Spirits start stepping back. So we definitely got to make sure that like that's something that people need to understand, that that's just not how
Hmm.
mediumship works. It's not a phone call where I can just call and be like, hey, she wants to know what you think about so and so, and she wants to know exactly what you gave her. It doesn't work that way, guys. And trust us, we're here to do our best, but we're not a circus show. We're not here to
Yeah.
jump through hoops for anybody. We definitely do our best to make sure that you get the information that you need, but it needs to be understood, like how mediumship really works, so that people, like I said, set aside those expectations and don't set your spirit up for failure. You don't set us up for failure, because that can be, it can make the reading go downhill really, really quick. If
Yeah.
you tend to do stuff like that. So I feel like there's mediumship etiquette that people need to understand whenever we go into a reading, so that you
Yes.
don't set yourself up for failure. It's just a big thing, and I feel like people do that all the time, and I get it because I used to be a sitter, you know what I mean, as well. But I also never ever said, well, I want you to tell me what my grandpa called me, what was my nickname, which has been brought
Yeah.
up before in readings, but he brought that up because he wanted to, and it was
Yeah.
important. If they don't bring it up, guys, and they don't feel like it's important, then that's just how it is. But I don't think that people
Yeah.
understand that we're going to give exactly what they need you to hear and what they want to give. It's not exactly what you want to get. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So I
Yeah.
definitely wanted to bring that up because I feel like I've seen that happen so many times this week already. And it really, it can definitely put a damper on the whole reading
Oh, yeah.
real
I
quick.
think that is why, one of the reasons why I'm not huge into spirit-led readings.
Right.
There's multiple reasons, but one of them being I've noticed that every time that I'm doing a spirit-led, even though I'm getting things that
Right.
really can separate people, there's still multiple people who can take it. And
Yep.
on top of that, I'm getting, well, what's this? And well, what's there? And do they and what's their age? And da 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 da. And I'm just like
Right.
kind of sitting there and I'm starting to get myself a little bit like irritated a bit because I'm
Yes.
sitting there trying to talk to this person and get more information and then looking at the chat to see if anyone can understand it. And then you're
Right.
asking me this and this and this and this and this. And I'm like, I'm giving you guys everything. Like, I have given you
Yeah.
guys 15 pieces of evidence and you're still asking
Yes.
me these same things. So I think that's one of the reasons why I'm not huge into spirit led.
Right.
Um,
I
on
get
top
that.
of I just prefer going direct, but again,
Right.
there is huge things on etiquette. Like, we are not here to prove anything to you. If you feel
Right.
like you need to test us,
Yeah.
don't get a reading.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
just
That's
don't get a
exactly
reading. You're
right.
not ready for it. You're not open to it. You don't trust us, which trust is huge. You don't trust, whoever you're getting a reading from, then don't.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And you have to be ready for it. You know what I mean? And that's something else that I've actually learned in spirit led, which I actually really enjoy spirit led now. I was terrified to do it when I first started because I'd never done it before. And like
Mm-hmm.
you said, we both just tend to like direct because that's what we know, and we know it really,
Mm-hmm.
really well. Spirit led, though, I have learned, especially if I've got a lot of people in the chat, that sometimes there's going to be 3 or 4 people that are taking every single piece of evidence. But I have also learned that now when I tell spirit, like, you're going to have to give me something for just one person, like I need you to narrow it down, and you're going to have to give me something right now, and it has to make sense for one person. And when I do that, they will. And like, that's a
Mm.
big thing, because before it'd be like 30 items and everybody's like 100%, 100%. I can take all of it. I can take all of it. And I'm like, there's no way that 4 people in here can take every single piece of this information. And again, they're all taking it in different ways. And I'm not trying to call anybody a liar. So please understand that. But I do feel like sometimes, with the spirit leds, people will try to make stuff fit. And that's a big thing in mediumship, guys. You have to understand not to make it fit. If it doesn't resonate with you, then definitely take those postcards and understand that your loved ones are saying hi with all of these other pieces of information, but this may not just be, your specific person. But that's a huge thing, is for people to know not to make it fit. If it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit, and that's okay. But like I said, I've noticed recently in the last couple of weeks, whenever I'm literally telling spirit, like, okay, we've got 3 people that are still taking all of this, give me something that goes just with this specific person. And they've gotten a lot better with giving me like really, really specific items that only one person can take. So I feel like that's really, really helped me with that. And I love that, because spirit will definitely provide us with what we need, but sometimes we just have to make them narrow it down and make them like really, really focus on, okay, I can't keep giving more information because this is, making too much sense for everybody. Give me just one item that only one person can take. And the next thing you know, 2 people are like, yeah, I can't take that. And only one person is like, oh yeah, I do have that tattoo. Or, oh, that's exactly what I'm eating right now, or whatever it is. And then I know, okay, it's this person. And then I can feel more drawn to them.
Mm-hmm.
But and I feel like it's also getting better with me, like actually seeing people in the chat and being like actually pulled to somebody, where I've never understood how mediums did that, because I never did spirit led. So I would be watching, mediums do that and be like, well, I feel pulled to so and so. And I'm like, how? Like, how do you just like, how do you know? But spirit will make you like
Mm-hmm.
focus on somebody. So that's something else that I'm learning. So I think it's just important for people to know that every day we're learning stuff. Every
Mm-hmm.
day is different. Every day we are communicating with them, and they're showing us new things, new symbols, new emotions, all different kinds of new things. So I feel like it's just really important for people to understand that like we're definitely doing our best, and trying to like give everybody the best readings that we possibly can. We're also trying to improve ourselves every single day. And so but people need to understand mediumship etiquette in the long run.
Yeah.
It's very, very important, not only for you, but also for us, in order to make your reading go as seamlessly as possible.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us this week on this
Yes.
lovely podcast. We had so much fun with you. Make sure you guys are following both me and Heather. Heather's TikTok is Heather underscore the underscore medium. Mine is Moonlight Medium underscore. I believe they're in the description in our YouTube as well.
Yes.
But yeah, just make sure you guys are following us. We'll be back here next week. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome, guys. We love to hear from you. So, like I said, if you don't want to use our email, which I gave earlier, you can always hop into our lives to give us suggestions. I write down suggestions anytime that somebody says, can you talk about this? So, trust me that we are here for you guys. So, please give us any and all suggestions, because we are here to talk about whatever you need to know about. We will definitely do research if we have to as well. We are always learning, guys, right here along with everybody else. So, just know that this is literally more of an educational podcast more than anything, just because we get so many questions during our lives, but we can't answer questions half the time because we're doing, our paid mediumship reading. So just know that we're not ignoring you. I always come back at the end of all of my lives to ask, if you have anything that you want to talk to me about, you can either message me, you can message our two mediums no filter at gmail.com. But we're always here for any suggestion, guys. So please feel free to holler at us anytime that you need anything, or you have something that you would like us to talk about. Okay. And otherwise, we will see you next week. I hope y'all all have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next Thursday.
All right. Bye, guys.
Peace out, everybody.